Welcome to Wine Wednesday, everybody. This is Cabernets with the Maryland Wineries Association, and I'm thrilled to be hosting a little conversation with some new folks in the industry who I'm thrilled to have on. And I would like to introduce Heather and Michael from Celebration Cellars Winery in Frederick. Welcome.
Thank you for having us, Kevin.
So you are like brand new.
6 weeks old.
Yeah. We're the new kids on the block.
Yeah, new kids on the block and new kids on the hill. So tell us a little bit about where you are and how the first 6 weeks have gone.
Okay, Michael's saying I should start. So the first 6 weeks, so we were the first winery here in Maryland to actually do a virtual ribbon cutting. So working with Kevin closely and his team, got to do that on the 19th of June. And since then, the last 3 weekends, we've actually been fully booked, both in our B&B and in our winery here. All the appointments have filled up, so people have been dancing down by the fire pit on Saturday nights, and it's exceeded our expectations. So we've been pretty excited about that.
So you, it sounds like you're by appointment only.
Yes, we are. We want to, and thank you for asking that question, Kevin. We are by appointment only, and the reason for that is since the beginning, our model has been to create intimate experiences for people who want to do small groups and really come to celebrate something that's important to them, to create a memory. So yes, we are by appointment only. So on Saturdays, we have up to 8 appointments at the moment, and then on Sunday afternoons, it's up to 10. And we have lots of space, so people are able to bring their food out and make an evening or an afternoon out of it. And just know that the place is to themselves pretty much.
So I know COVID and all the accommodations that wineries have had to engage in to be open during COVID has made customers a lot more comfortable with appointments and the concept of appointments. But that is really pretty new to the industry. But you set out from the beginning to be appointment only, and it was for that last reason, right?
Exactly. So when we started the model, I'm going to say probably 3 years ago, we decided that's the way we wanted to be. So I set up the scheduling system and everything to manage it. And at the beginning of the year, when we knew we were going to open and COVID happened, we definitely had a lot of our friends say, "What are you guys going to do?" And I said, "We're going to stay the course because people are going to feel comfortable doing this because they know it's much easier to manage the sanitization and, just making sure that people have their own private space, their own table." And and we have found that people have been extremely comfortable with that.
So you are the closest winery actually to Frederick City, is that correct?
Correct. We're about 13 minutes from downtown Frederick, and we are the closest winery to downtown. A couple miles away from us, about another 8 miles past us, is Springfield Manor, and then farther up the road is Catoctin Breeze.
And from your perch up there on the hillside, you've got an incredible view, and I've seen it for myself. So tell folks what they're missing by not being there with you today.
Well, Kevin, the weather is glorious today. It's a little warm, but it's definitely cooler up in the mountains. And we look to the east-southeast, so on a clear day, we can see Mount Airy, we can see the Westminster Ridge. We enjoy looking out at Walkersville. We can see traffic on US 15 a few miles out in the distance. So on a clear day, generally about 30 miles. And at night, because we don't have that the wash from the lights in the city, incredible full moons because we are looking out to the east, so we can see that moon rise. And then just glorious stars out here. Unfortunately, we're facing the wrong direction to see the comet that just was making an appearance. But other than that, you have a spectacular night view overlooking part of the city of Frederick and east, and then the stars overhead.
Okay, so no comet. All right, that's fine.
No
Yeah, but the stars up in the sky at night, you see constellations that you don't get to see down in the city because of the light pollution. And then because we are tucked away in a private hillside, or, some people call it a mountain, but we're at an elevation of a little over 700 feet. Our property does go up to 1,000. And we've got a little over 20 acres. So it feels very secluded, and people are surprised when they get back here, when they see, oh my gosh, they say, I didn't have any idea this even existed. So that's always fun when people get here and stand on that driveway and they go, oh my goodness, look at your view.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is spectacular, because when you're driving up, it's a little kind of one lane road, rural road, and then the pavement stops, the gravel starts, and you really feel like you're someplace. And then you make that turn into your driveway, and you know you're on a hill, but you're not sure where. But when you finally walk up the steps to either your porch or kind of walk down to the fire pit area, it hits you that you're up in the clouds, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
We've had people that just live just a few miles away that remarked, we knew that these houses existed up there, but they just had no idea.
Never knew how to get there. So you're
right.
Yeah.
Up the hill.
Right.
So
one of the
well,
sorry, no, I was just going to add, one of the things with the wildlife that we have here, we have over 50 different species of birds that nest, live here in the trees on our property. And so you get to see birds that sometimes you didn't even realize existed. And a lot of them are hummingbirds. So we see them all the time. I saw one of them dancing this morning out in the front yard. So it's really nice to see them, reminding us that, that is our logo. It's the symbol of joy and celebration. And that's why we chose it, because we wanted to create a place for people to celebrate.
You answered my question before I asked it. I was going to ask all about the hummingbird and just the connection to it. So I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So what got you into this? And why don't you, as you do this, say a little bit about your background, because you were not, your career is not in the wine industry until just a few months ago.
That is true. So I was living in Michigan in the early 1990s, and at that time the laws of Michigan were very draconian, and so brew pubs weren't even a thing that were allowed within the state. There were a couple of craft breweries, but you had to drive to some random tasting room or what have you. And I took a trip to Washington State and toured a few brew pubs and a few wineries that summer of 1992. And I immediately, when I got home, joined the American Homebrewers Association and started making beer. And so I've made beer on and off for 28 years and never really had thought about it as a vocation. You're right. My background was in management, sales management, and I've been in management of IT consulting for 22 and a half years, I guess now. And my degrees are in economics and music and management. So not anything remotely close to agriculture. But Heather and I had always, not always, but for 15 years, I guess, had the idea of opening a restaurant, maybe with sort of a French style theme called Celebrate. And of course, lots of bubbles where people could come and celebrate not necessarily life's big things, but life's little things too, because we all need more celebration in our life. Well, the economy took a rough turn in 2008. She had an opportunity to come here with her company right around 2008, 2009. So we moved here in the spring of 2009, and my birthday's in the fall. And that fall, she got me winemaking lessons at the old location of the Flying Barrel in downtown Frederick. We were living in Silver Spring at the time. And I made 2 batches that were ready at 6 months later or so, something like that. And I was hooked, and she paid for.
Then I hired Ray out at Cygnus to teach him how to make sparkling.
And it's there's people that will say I got the bug, and then it becomes all consuming. And so I think we've had a lot of fun experimenting with it, and I guess you've known us for about 9 years now. So the dream has, as the skill has gotten better at making wine, I think the dream has solidified within us, and now our dream becomes a reality.
So you mentioned bubbles.
Yes.
Bubbles are still a bit of a rarity in Maryland. And you mentioned Ray, who's one of my all-time favorite people, Ray Brassfield from Cygnus Wine Cellars, who retired, and the winery retired with him a few years back. Ray was one of the first in the industry to not just make bubbles, but to go strong at producing bubbles. It wasn't just one wine. I think at times he would have 4, maybe 5 different sparkling wines at different varieties and different methods. Heather, you mentioned bubbles. What is the connection to Celebration? And when I was out there, I really came away thinking that I should be drinking sparkling wine more often, and I have been. So thank you for that.
And before I even met Michael, I used to buy a case of Veuve Clicquot, which is a French champagne, at the beginning of every year. And it would be gone by the end of March. So, I mean, it's kind of one bottle a week, right? But I just used to find reasons to celebrate, because I know I've always worked so hard in my life. And I thought, no one else is going to celebrate me. So I might as well. And I was single at the time. So I would get together with my friends and I'd go, let's toast each other. Let's acknowledge each other's accomplishments. Let's just celebrate because it's Friday night. And we get the joy and the beauty of being able to just be together. So I know right now Michael and I are just missing our families so much. And any chance we get to celebrate, and I almost had tears in my eyes, because last weekend we had a family here, a group, and they were laughing so much together. They were the ones dancing by the fireplace. But they were laughing in here, and I was back,
washing glasses.
But the joy of their laughter, and I was just like, this is why we built this. It was just so heartwarming to hear that, and for them to have known each other for so long and be able to be together, especially in this, very difficult time for people.
We have a question from Alicia asking if you have group availability for 15 to 20 people.
I'll answer it with a caveat. So the answer is yes. The caveat is right now we have to operate at 50% capacity with CDC guidelines. If the weather is spectacular as it is right now, we can maintain the 50% capacity indoors. We've got seating outside for roughly 30. We do have a sunroom as well that has seating comfortably for 6, although we could fit some more people in there as well. Just in our tasting room proper, we can only have 13 people in that room at one time. Right. Under current guidelines, which are shape-shifting potentially with the governor's press conference at 3:30 today. So,
okay,
we'll see how all this works.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your I guess agenda when figuring out what wines you're going to make.
Oh, I love this one.
Okay, great.
because originally, because Michael loves the Bordeaux style wines. When we first started, that was the agenda. And I said, sweetheart, there's a lot of other tastes in the world. And so we really need to broaden and let's experiment and play. So anyways, I'll turn it over to him and then he can tell some of the expansion. Thanks for the question.
Sure. So we tried to, I think it might have even been you, or I heard it somewhere that said, there's 1,000 different varieties of grapes you can make wine from. But the 12 grapes that everyone knows accounts for about 80% of the sales. So we try to do the basics: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay, Malbec. We've got a Riesling that's in the tank. Sauvignon Blanc has been selling very well. We've got more of that that's in a tank. But we also get to do some fun things because we are a small winery. So we slightly sweetened a Shiraz and called it Blackberry Shiraz, not these 5% residual sugar things that you might find elsewhere, because I know that there's this preconceived notion about sweetening wines. So we've tried to be very gentle. Pinot Grigio, we experimented with it, one at 1% and one at 2% residual sugar. So we have a lot of the basics covered. And then we've had fun. We have an apricot Semillon that'll be coming out later this year, and we have a Merlot from from Chile that's actually aging in a used whiskey barrel from one of the distillers in downtown Frederick. So we try to do cover the basics, dry and off dry, semi-sweet, and then we do have a sweet dessert wine and another one that's coming out in September, the bubbles, and then we just experiment a little bit and just have fun.
Yeah. Kevin, especially with the fun part, I know, and you're actually the one that named it. So we will hear before Christmas have an identity crisis release party. So this was exactly when you named it. I thought, oh, that's perfect. Kevin just named the identity crisis.
Oh boy!
People love it.
Yeah, they do. We've done a number of barrel samples, and people are like, "Oh, that's great. When's it out?"
Well, tell folks about this wine because it's a very, very cool wine.
Sure. So we started with a Chardonnay, and I know that's our very first wine that we'll talk about. And so it's a, I don't want to say traditional French method, but a French method called sur lie, which means on the lees. And what that means is the lees are the yeast cells that most wine is fermented outside of the barrel, and then it is put into the barrel to age. In this case, we fermented it in the barrel. It's a neutral French oak barrel, so a French oak barrel that's been used once. The oak is a little softer because it's not a brand new barrel, and it sat in that barrel for 13 months. And so we pulled off the first 14 gallons to make 6 cases of sparkling. The next 30 some odd gallons became the wine. And then the last 15 gallons, Heather found an American oak. Well, it's a cooperage up in Minnesota, and they make whiskey barrels from American oak. And so it is a number 4 toast, which is the darkest toast. So think like the color of the chair. That's what the inside of the barrel looks like. And it imparts toffee and caramel and vanilla. And so after it barrel fermented in an oak barrel, or after it aged in an oak barrel for 13 months, we put it into the whiskey barrel, and it's been in the whiskey barrel for about 2 years. And we've been sampling it every now and again, and it's just about got just enough, but people smell it. And Kevin, we decided it was the perfect name because you said it's having an identity crisis because people smell it. And if I give them a barrel sample, I tell them, smell it first. Tell me what you're smelling. And I won't tell them anything about it. And they're like, what is that? And then they'll taste it and they'll go, what is it? And it tasted, it has, at some points you can tell it's a wine. At some points you think this could be a whiskey. And then at some points it really shows more like a liqueur because we did back sweeten it slightly as well. So it's the name you said when you tasted it, Identity Crisis, is our favorite thing. We're already thinking about planning once we bottle that what Identity Crisis 2.0 is going to be.
Oh boy. Well, I love it. And I think, as you mentioned, being such a small winery gives you the flexibility to be creative and to try all manner of things and all manner of varieties. Now, you have a vineyard on site, but it sounds like you're also pulling from potentially other local grapes and international grapes and doing all kinds of interesting blends.
Sure. One of the first vineyards that we bought fruit from in the state was Harford Vineyards out in Harford County. And one of our wines we have a 2016 Merlot. And again, because we let this sit in oak for about 18 months, it doesn't necessarily show like what people might think of as a Maryland Merlot. It definitely, when we have people guess what it is, they guess Cab a lot or Red Blend a lot. They don't necessarily guess Merlot. And we're buying fruit from one of the more well-known vineyards in the area. So Big Cork Vineyards just does an amazing job too. The quality of their wine, the quality of their grapes, and they sometimes it's a really good season and they have excess to sell. So we're buying a ton of Vidal this fall from Dave, and then a little bit later in the fall we'll have 1,000 pounds of their Malbec. So we're working through our production planning to figure out what we're doing with that. And then we're in talks with a couple different landowners here in Frederick County to expand our vineyard, because as many of the wineries in the state started out, this is tasting room 1.0. This is the lower level of our home. But we're thinking about how can we expand our agricultural footprint within Frederick County, both from vines in the ground and also a tasting room.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, even though Michael said this is the lower level of our home, when people walk down the path and then they walk into the tasting room, you don't feel like it's a home. You really feel like you've walked into an event, location.
Which is very cool. I mean, I think the what you've created on such a small scale feels really big. When you get out there, you feel like, as we talked about, that you are someplace completely different. And I think that's where you fit in, and a little bit different than some of the other wineries that are kind of on the local wine trail, Frederick Wine Trail and Antietam Highlands over the hill. Each of you are giving a very different experience. And I keep thinking back to the identity crisis, and I'm remembering the taste of it, and can't wait to come get a bottle once it's live and available.
I've quoted you many times
Yes.
to people.
Yes.
Have you really?
True.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I doubt that's going to help sell any bottles, but
Yeah.
They love the name.
Right. Well, one of the things too, Kevin, Michael and I looked in every single county in the state when we went shopping for property and for land, because we knew we wanted people to be able to sit with their wine and enjoy an amazing view. And so we looked for 3 years before we found this place. And one of the jokes Michael and I make all the time is that this is the DIY winery, because Michael and I have done the construction and the work, the vast majority of it ourselves. So we've got pictures of when we brought down a concrete grinder, when we ripped up this whole floor and ground down all the concrete, just the two of us. And then I watched YouTube videos, and Michael said, "We're going to do what?" I said, "We're going to do a custom concrete floor." And anyways, it looks gorgeous. And Michael built the bar that's behind us with a little bit of assistance from our friends in Virginia, where we actually found this, large piece of walnut that from the same tree. So we've got this almost 16-foot live edge wood walnut bar, behind us with a copper patina front. And anyways, it's but all the lighting, everything, we've done all this ourselves, including our first masonry project, which was building the fire pit down below.
We've got a third career in general contracting, it sounds like.
Right.
We've remodeled a couple houses, so yeah.
Well, let's hope the winery works out, right?
All right.
So tell us what we have to taste. Let's dive into the first wine.
Okay, very good. So the first wine that we'll taste, it's only white on our tasting menu today. We have 2 other whites if you were visiting, but it's the only white that Heather and I are tasting today, and that is our 2016 Chardonnay. We often hear comments from people that don't like. Oh, no, you can't see me.
Let me do that again.
That don't like Chardonnay because it's too oaky, or it's big and bold, like some of the ones that maybe are coming out of California. And I would say that my winemaking style is much more a European winemaking style than it is a New World style. So the Surly, I know there's some wineries that are certainly doing it in the U.S. I don't know about it in the state of Maryland, but it is a barrel fermented Chardonnay. Grapes come from California, unfortunately, not from Maryland, but it has a nice soft feel to it. The oak is gentle. It does have some of that buttery characteristic to it because it did go through malolactic fermentation in the barrel as well after fermentation was done. And the fact that it sat on the lees or the yeast cells for 13 months and we stirred it once a month gives it a different mouthfeel than a traditional Chardonnay, or think about a white wine that was never in an oak barrel, like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Riesling, where it tastes a little thinner, I guess. So this actually has it's more viscous, so it feels different in the mouth, and so it's a very easy drinking white if you're looking for something to enjoy on a summer day like today. I always recommend having food with wine, but it is one of those wines if you just wanted to sit on your porch and watch the sun go down, or sit on our deck and watch the sun go down. It's one of those whites that you could definitely do that with.
So, yeah, give that a little sip. Why not? So, Surly is something that I didn't hear about for a while in the industry, but Bordy Vineyards was one of the original wineries who always consistently produced a Surly, and it was a Save-All.
Okay.
That was Surly, and that's where I first learned about Surly. And when you try something that is Surly, meaning the yeast, when it's done fermenting, you leave the yeast in the barrel or in the tank in contact with the wine. It adds I think it adds so much to the wine. So I was thrilled to hear that you're doing that. A lot of times, winemakers, especially new ones, want to get that yeast out right away, and that creates a certain style wine. But this adds a whole nother level of complexity.
I was watching a video within the past week of a winemaker in California, and she's doing a Surly Vidal. And so I was thinking, okay, then maybe with some of that Vidal that I get from Big Cork, that I'll do the same.
Yeah, it's worth a shot just to see what that does. I don't think I've ever had a Surly Vidal. So
definitely not me either. But I'll have to look her up. But she seemed like she was pretty well known and definitely knew what she was doing. So
good.
It wasn't a random YouTube video.
Random YouTube videos are just fine now and then. So will you be making a Chardonnay every year?
That's a great question. We're doing our production planning right now, and we know what we've committed to already. And we're also looking at what's been selling over the last 6 weeks. And so as it adjusts what is selling, the Sauvignon Blanc is our number one selling white. So we know that we do have more back there that'll be bottled Christmas-ish. So we know we're going to make more of that. The grapes that I'm growing out in our vineyard here are Chardonnay. So once we finally have a harvest here, the answer to that would be yes. I would say that we're unsure what we're going to do in 2020, but certainly in a normal year, we would be making a Chardonnay. So
the grapes on site are Chardonnay?
Yes, a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc tossed in, but everything else is Chardonnay.
So as we gear up for the next wine, I would love to hear just kind of a test market study analysis. What have you learned from your customers so far? What are the trends of your customers?
The trends of our customers.
One of them I can tell you. So we've sold out of the Blackberry Shiraz.
Okay.
And that was, it was amazing how fast that went. But what I thought was fascinating is when people were drinking the Malbec, every one of them, except for maybe one, thought it was Blackberry Shiraz when they were smelling it. And it wasn't. There was no nothing, no blackberry in it at all. It was just a pure grape.
Yeah, we'll do, not with everyone, but certainly for people that are game to just sort of, hey, let's play a little game. Let's pour some wine, and then you get to guess and tell us what you're smelling or tasting. So we've been doing that
I told them drinking games people never grow out of.
That's true. It's true. So one of the things so the Sauvignon Blanc, I know we're not pouring it, but again, it's made in that very French style. So it tastes a lot more like a white Bordeaux than it does Kim Crawford, New Zealand, because it's not crisp and acidic and everything that you think. So people have a preconceived notion in their head about what a Sauvignon Blanc should be, and then you pour that, and then they taste it, and they guess Chardonnay, and even though there's no oak in it. Right. And it's just an opportunity for people to share what they like or don't like based on taste rather than based on what their mind tells them they should be tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's always incredible to me, the power of branding. So I know a whole bunch of folks who, when we're out to dinner, they won't even look at the wine list. They'll just say, I'll have a glass of Kendall Jackson Chardonnay, or I'll have a glass of Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc, regardless of whether it's on the wine list, regardless of whether they have any knowledge about what the world of Sauvignon Blanc tastes like. It's just a branding has guided people to that. So it's funny that you almost have to undo that when you're trying some of the wines.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to play the game, and why whenever people come here, I ask them if they're willing to be open, and just let us pour, because for myself when we just put our own wines in brown bags and mixed them up and tasted them ourselves, so that way we could write the tasting notes without any, projection of what we thought it should be. I drank an entire glass of our Merlot and our Chardonnay, and neither one of those are my go-to.
True.
And I surprised myself by tasting it blindly instead of with my head. So that's why I thought, we should just do this for people, because I didn't realize how many people didn't know that Merlot was a varietal or that Chardonnay was a varietal. They thought it was a name.
Right.
Right. And so there's been, that level. And then there's been people here from the Frederick Wine Society. The Wandering Winos, we love them. That's another group here that have been here to visit. They're hilarious. And so we've had people that have traveled the world that have been here. And they particularly gravitate to both the Chardonnay and to both of the Cabs.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would say that.
Yeah, but that whole thing around just, tasting it and seeing what you taste has opened people a lot up. And I honestly think it's increased our sales.
Yeah, that's something that we have done the last 8 years at the Maryland Wine Festival, which unfortunately won't be held this year. But we do a blind tasting, and people love it. People love it, and it reminds you how influenced we are, and just how we think we know exactly what we know, but it's because someone else told us. And then when you put a bag over it, all bets are off. Right. I mean, if they couldn't see that the wine was white, they'd think it might be red. So, yeah. Well, let's try. You want to try the next one? You had two Cabernets, right?
Sure. So we made 2 Cabernets, 2016 and 2017, and both are 100% Cabernet from the same vineyard, and both aged in neutral French oak for 18 months. Again, barrels that had been used once for red wine specifically. And the similarity really stops at that point. And so the 2016 was made in very much the French, the European style. We actually let it ferment for 4 weeks. And so we got all the tannins that we could out of that skin. And it's got definitely a deeper color, longer tannins. And then, in fact, where the tables are, where we're sitting right now, 2016, by the time we got around to pressing them after fermentation, it was a week before Thanksgiving, and it was like 40 degrees outside. So we did the pressing right here rather than on the crush pad, and we pressed the heck out of it. So there is a lot of pressed wine in there. So pressed wine, or if you think about macerating the fermented flesh of a grape, it'll add some texture, some compound to it, but certainly there's no alcohol. So it comes in about 2 points lower than the 2017. Unfiltered, so you will get a little sediment at the bottom of the bottle, certainly, and then it's been in bottle for I guess 2 years, and it's got nice long lingering tannins to it. We actually produced a red blend where we blended in a little bit of Merlot from that same vineyard just to round out really have more of a Bordeaux blend, kind of round out the wine. But the cab by itself is very nice, but I could see letting it age for another 2 or 3 years as well. And then in 2017, so we took the same grape, same vineyard, but treated it very differently. Fermented for 2 weeks. When it went into the press, it is primarily free run. So I know you know what free run is, but for anyone that's watching this that doesn't understand free run, it basically is after fermentation, when you put it into the press, it's the juice that runs out without applying any pressure from the press. So there was light pressure applied from the press, and the wine also was filtered. And light pressure sat in the barrel for 18 months, and then it was filtered upon bottling. So as a result, it's lighter in color, lighter in body. It's fruitier. It has just a nice soft finish to it. It doesn't have the long lingering traditional Bordeaux finish, but one is very indicative of what you'd find in Bordeaux. One is very indicative of what you'd find in Central Coast California.
I think what's great about that is you have these released at
Correct.
the same time, so someone simultaneously taste the old world style versus the new world style. As you know, having been through enough of our growing seasons, we have some very good growing seasons, and we have some growing seasons, and we have some growing seasons we wish we didn't have. And in the really, really hot, perfect growing seasons, it's very easy for our wineries to make a new world Cabernet.
Right.
Big, fruit forward, fleshy, the really, really ripe, almost overripe fruit, a little higher alcohol.
Yeah.
But most of the years, we're making old world style wines. And I think what's unique in this case is someone can taste both at the same time, and you
Correct.
can walk them through the difference, which is great. So, so just to put it up on the screen, so we've got a 2016. And is there a color difference of them?
There is, and I don't know if it'll show up on screen or not. I can try to
one's more brown, right?
Can try to hold a napkin behind it, but it's not doing much from a color perspective. Yeah, it's red.
It's a little brown.
Yeah, it does have more tinges of brown, certainly.
Yeah.
Especially if you look down at it where the wine hits the glass, you definitely see some more of the tinges of brown.
Yeah, it's been fun actually introducing people to vertical tastings and being able to give them two, glasses and side by side and have them taste the difference, and then watch, a group of people decide, oh, I like the 16 better. Oh, I like the 17 better. So,
We're doing an event a little later in the fall too. We are a non-smoking property, but we're going to, there are a number of customers that we have that enjoy cigars. And so we're going to do an event where we invite them to bring their meat, and it doesn't have to be red meat, but we're calling it Reds and Cigars. And so we will have our Weber grill out on the grill or out on the deck so they can grill their own meat and then enjoy some of our Reds, and then enjoy a cigar
down by the fire pit.
I think this might be the first. You did the first virtual ribbon cutting in the industry, so then this will be the first BYO meet.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'm in. I love it. So what has the sense been among your customers of these two Cabernets?
Well, the one thing I'll tell you about the 16 is we fermented a Cab Sauv, a Cab Franc, and a Merlot that year individually, and then we did 18 different permutations. It was a Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning, or Saturday morning, Sunday, I don't remember. It was a weekend morning. It was 9:30 in the morning, and we tasted all these different permutations to figure out what was going to be the Bordeaux blend that we were going to produce, and that became the red blend that we have. And that's just Cab Sauv, 83% of the 2016 Cab Sauv, and then 17% of the Merlot. When people taste that, they definitely taste that it's a more balanced wine. There's still a little, I'll call it a little sharpness or a little tannic on the finish. So that's why I said it could lay down for another 3 years. The 17 is definitely drinkable now. There's some people that love the 16, but between the 16, which is 100% Cab, and then the red blend, which is 83% Cab, that's the one that people, because we'll do the vertical and then we'll taste the red blend so they can taste what that little bit of Merlot does to round it out. And that one is selling better. And if you look at our production too, we made a lot more of that than we did the 100%, but it's nice to have the vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 17 is the 2017 Cab Sauv. This was our silver medal award winner too at the 2019 Comptroller's Cup. So the 2017 has been selling quite a bit as well.
Yeah, true.
And I haven't been asking prices, but back up a little bit. What's the price, the general retail price of the Chardonnay and then these two Cabs?
Okay, Chardonnay is 20, and the 2017 is 36. The 2016 is 32, and then the red blend, which is also 2016, is 34.
Great. 32, 34, 36.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
And in general, Kevin, our prices range from 16 to 36. So, and anyways, people can go to our website which is celebrationcellarswinery.com. But anyways, and they can see all the prices and the bottles on there.
And what is you said one was 16, the lowest is 16?
Yeah, I think 3 of them are 16.
Okay.
And I know the Malbec 16, the Sauvignon Blanc is 16, and the Pinot Grigio.
Yeah.
Great. Are you finding that customers are first-time customers willing to spend $36 a bottle?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I don't think we've sold less than 3 bottles per customer.
Really?
Yes.
But not necessarily all at 36, but certainly.
But at least 3 bottles per customer. Because when I go look at our average sale is $73 per customer with regard to what they're buying.
That's great. And are you finding that some folks are coming in and they're laser focused on red wines versus white wines, or are people trying a mix and then buying a mix?
Most people have been willing to play the game.
There was a couple that was camping and found us literally by just, hey, Google, what's the closest winery? This was on one of our 100-degree weekends a couple weeks ago. And the guy said he didn't like white wine. He was a red wine drinker, but they ended up buying a bottle of red and a bottle of white and chilled one to take back to their camp. Actually, they were going to, I think, see some friends and then go back to their campground. But I think there are people that just have, the preconceived notion that, oh, I don't like this or I don't like this. And so we've tried to.
I think what surprised me too about that couple is they said they liked Moscato.
Yeah,
that they like sweet wines. But then they ended up buying the 2017 Cab and the Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, both no residual sugar.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
So tell me about, so you mentioned your Blackberry Merlot?
Shiraz.
Blackberry Shiraz. And the apricot Semillon sounds dreamy. So you're doing some very cool things with alternative styles and blends. Tell us about the Goodnight Kiss.
Goodnight Kiss. All right. I'll let her hold that bottle up.
I can't get it right.
There you go.
He's better at this than I am.
There we go. Now you can see it.
Yep.
All right. So I don't want to hold it in front of her face, but
it's okay.
It is a port style dessert wine. Because we are not able to, I guess I'll hold it up longer, because we're not able to fortify it like a port would be. We don't have a distiller's license yet, emphasis on the word yet. So this is that same 2016 Cab Sauv, 2016 Cab Franc, 2016 Merlot. They each fermented and aged individually for 18 months in French oak. And then after we produced the 2016 red blend and the 2016 Cab, then we blended the others together, put them back in oak for another 18 months. And so they've been in oak for 36 months and then sweetened to about 5% residual sugar. And there we go. I'm not getting focused. Now it's focusing. And because it's been in an oak barrel for so long, it does have a port style feel to it. And then what we'll do with this one, I'll switch to the glass.
Yeah.
Is we have Hershey's Special Dark Kiss. It's not the milk chocolate. It's got to be a dark chocolate, and we'll give them a Hershey's Kiss with this, and then we will let them taste it, and then let some or all of the Hershey's Kiss dissolve in their mouth, and then taste it again. And after they have that piece of chocolate, the wine does not appear quite as sweet, and there's a lot more grape, a lot more fruit that they're able to get. So it is a perfect glass. It is the perfect ending to a tasting or to an evening. And for people that don't like dessert wine, we've gotten some really positive feedback on this one as well.
Well, and I recall it when I tasted it having good acid too, right? So it's not just sweet for sweet's sake. Right. And I love those glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because even when they know we're bringing them something different.
Yeah.
When we bring out these small little glasses. And some people, when they come here, they bring their dinner and they'll do their tasting first, and then they'll get a bottle or they'll get their glasses and then go up to the upper deck so they can have the view and enjoy their meal. And then when they're finished, they'll let us know, and then we'll bring up their dessert wine with the dark chocolates, and they'll finish off their evening.
That's great. That's great. And I should ask, So those are fancy, cute little glasses. When we were out there a couple weeks before your opening, you had different glasses for each wine. Are you still, or for each wine style? So reds were in a glass, whites were in a different glass.
Yes.
Sparkling.
Correct.
Still going with that.
Yeah, we still have them all.
So give me one.
Give you
You know,
one.
and that's different from a lot of wineries as well. So that's another.
So there, you can see there. I mean, the white glass is slightly smaller, but it is German crystal. So we didn't want to skimp on the glasses. They do have our logo on them, so we try to baby them. We hand wash them all, hand dry them. But in addition to having the two of these, because we're going to have bubbles on the menu here in just a couple of months, we also have flutes. So we do pour whatever whites they're going to do with their tasting first in the white wine glass, and then we'll go into the red wine glass. Certainly, when we do bubbles, we'll have that as well.
Yeah, we did our research on the custom stemware and the crystal, Kevin. So I appreciate you asking the question. Anybody who's been through a Riedel, glass tasting understands the difference between drinking wine in a glass designed for that purpose than there is some of the other less expensive stemware. So this is all crystal from the Riedel family. And anyway, so that we found a company down in Virginia that would actually laser etch our hummingbird logo on all of our stemware.
We got some comments in here. First, from one of your neighbor wineries up at Catoctin Breeze, Alicia Fizita, saying she loves the name Goodnight Kiss, which is great. Alicia said basically she loves port, so she should make her way up there.
Good, yes.
And good comments on the glassware as well. So I think that's something that differentiates you and makes for that more intimate experience when the wines are being served in a different glass. I think that, it's a minor detail, obviously not on your end because you've put a lot of thought in it, and it sure isn't inexpensive to get 3 or 4 different sets of glassware and to have enough for the crowd, but it makes a big difference.
Sure.
Yeah, it does.
And the other thing that we do too is, as hot as it's been, the last thing that we want people to do is to get dehydrated in this heat. So we do give them, I don't want to say unlimited bottled water, but basically unlimited bottled water. And we do start their tasting off with a bottle of water, and then we have a dump bucket, a very elegant dump bucket on the table because Heather picked them out. So of course they're elegant, but a dump bucket right there. So, we tell people, look, if you taste something you don't like, just dump it. There's plenty of wine here. But certainly they have the opportunity even between the whites to rinse and then in the reds to rinse between to try and make the wine experience as pure as possible. And obviously the dessert wine has its own glass.
I love it. So tell me what's next.
That's a great question. We're stretching our arms and we're relaxing because we know harvest is right around the corner. It's going to be a very busy season, so we're looking at our production planning for the fall. We're looking at we looked at a piece of property last Sunday night with the owners. The owners of the other property actually are coming down this Saturday for our second conversation with them, and we want to focus on having a really good season. What we're producing this fall. We're excited about some of the things that are in the back end barrel right now. We have our first dry rosé that should be released in the spring. It's aging comfortably in neutral French oak right now. Some of that rosé will become our first rosé bubbly. So we're going to continue because obviously the traditional champagne method takes a long time from grape to glass, but we're going to continue that. And then some of the other fun experiments that we're doing, we're still going to do. We want to have those staples that are there year after year. Obviously, we're increasing our footprint in Maryland, both as far as what we're going to put in the ground and what we're buying from the state, and then we're trying just to diversify and have some fun with some unexpected wines for people.
Yeah, I've been looking at some Mexican sherry barrels.
Yes,
that's true. We can't age in those. Yep. So I really do like trying to figure out how to infuse and just really invent new things. My day job, I'm actually a strategy and innovation officer for a government contractor. So innovation and all the time thinking forward and creating new things is kind of my, go-to. So one of the things that we've been talking about, we're just so grateful for the people that have taken a chance, come out here, the first 6 weeks and become new customers and friends of Michael and I. We're trying to figure out, should we start opening on Friday nights, reach out to them, call them our Premier Crew Club. So that way they can come back here. They don't have to do a tasting, but they can just make a reservation, and enjoy the property on Friday nights while we continue to stay open on Saturdays and Sundays, to build new people and customers and friends of Celebration Cellars.
It's awesome. It's all awesome. So it does sound like you're going to need a barrel barn or something to put all these creative, innovative concoctions. Yeah. or maybe you should dig a hole in the hill and.
Oh, you're right. And bury them. Hey.
Go old school.
You might. Yeah. I was going to say, that's another conversation. You and I need to talk about Holland and what they've done with the beer, in the side of the hills. Oh,
yeah. I mean, that's big in the wine industry in California. I've been in some caves that, you could drive.
Have you been to Jarvis?
No.
Jarvis? Oh, yeah. They've got 40,000 square feet of underground caverns. It's amazing. Okay.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, yeah. I don't think you need quite 40,000 square feet, but
it's amazing.
1,000 square feet would be quite nice in the hill.
For sure.
I would ask, anything else you want to get across to our customers and our visitors, and how do people make appointments?
Okay. You can go to celebrationcellarswinery.com and it'll say schedule a visit. And
Great.
Just click on that page and then decide whether or not you want to come out Saturday night and bring your dinner and enjoy the fire pit, or Sunday afternoons. And then there is a place there for private events. And also we have a private bed and breakfast for only $2. So you get the whole winery to yourself after the evening closes. And so a lot of couples have definitely enjoyed that. We just had a couple last weekend that unfortunately their wedding had been postponed. So they were just enjoying their weekend together out here.
Well, I think you've created something really special, and I hope you get booked and are busy through the harvest season. And is it just the two of you, or do you have help?
It's just the two of us. Our help is coffee in the morning and wine in the evening.
and learning to juggle with harvest coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We do have friends and people that are definitely wanting to learn more.
Even customers that have said, "Oh, when you do the champagne, when you do the disgorging, call me. I'd love to help you with that." And we've had a couple other people that have volunteered to help with bottling and what have you. So
people always say they would love to do it.
And then
they're like an hour in, they're like, this is not easy.
This is work.
Yeah, my wife just texted me. I gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We did have one last question about a wine club. Do you guys have a wine club?
So, Carrie, thank you so much for asking that question. We in our minds we do right now. I know, yeah. So part of production planning is not only planning for what we're going to produce and put into barrel, but also what's going to come out of barrel and into bottle to make room for it, and then have space and aging and what have you. So the answer to the question is yes, but I really feel that that's going to be a 2021 proposition, probably sometime around this time of year, and then who knows what that format will be. Heather may have a different answer than me, but it's something that we very much want to do. I just don't know that we're there yet from a logistics or an inventory standpoint.
However, if you go to our website and order, we'll ship it to you very quickly, may I add.
That's right.
Sometimes even better, right? A la carte. So.
I was going to say that way they can choose what they want instead of us choosing for them. Yeah,
it is true.
Well, listen, it's been a blast talking with the two of you, and I wanted to thank you both for joining, and congratulations again. My sincerest congrats on opening and surviving 6 weeks. which, I mean, that's, you're in it now. It's too late. You're in it.
Well, and for us too, Kevin, we could not have done it without you, without the industry's help, without every other winery, distillery, or brewery around here that has helped forward legislation to make it possible for Michael and I. And we appreciate being the new kids on the block. We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, Alicia Wojtek and their winemaker Mike, are a great resource just up the road from us. So there is very much a sense of collaboration. They're not competitors.
No.
It's much more this collaboration because we all want Maryland wine to be more widely recognized,
right,
and have more people visit and go, yes, they're making some really good wines there. So Alicia's on, so we'll tip our cap to her. But certainly I could rattle off 20 wineries that have helped along the way and given us support.
That is the goal, is to be part of an industry that is that welcoming and supportive, and not just for when you need some extra corks, but
right.
when you're in a bind. Yeah, I mean it's great. So I'm sure you will pay it forward to the next new kid on the block.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
And thanks so much for joining. And with that, I'll just say thank you to everybody for watching and for being a part of the Maryland wine industry. And you can learn much more by going to marylandwine.com. And I did mention that our fall festivals, unfortunately, are folding under the weight of COVID, but we will be announcing some interesting new things, including our new Wine Explorer series of packages and wines and all kinds of good stuff. So stay tuned for that. And with that, so long.